Okay, so we're going live. That's great. So welcome you to this beautiful discussion that I'm having today. And if you don't know me, my name is Christian Prakash Kaur, and people know me by Amy Russell as well. I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher. I'm based in Ireland. I'm an intuitive healer, and I'm a change maker. And I have been on this spiritual path now for over 20 years, and Spirit is saying very strongly, it's time to come out of the shadows and to share in everything that you've done along the way. And yeah, so today I'm welcoming my amazing brother from, he's coming live across the continent from Canada. And, you know, welcome Seamus. So delighted to have you here today to have, you know, to have a conversation and, you know, picking apart the work and my passions. My passions are community, my passions are healing, my passions are giving people tools to help them on this path. These are tools that I've gathered that I like to share with people. And a lot of my work has kind of brought me indirectly, I suppose, being a woman, but has brought me to holding space for women and healing the divine feminine. And healing the ancestral line is a big part of my work that I do, workshop-wise, classes and retreats, which I've been offering now for the last 3 years. And, you know, we hear a lot, Seamus, and I'll hand it over to you then, but we hear a lot and we see a lot on the website, we see on social media around healing the divine feminine. Okay, so it's a big conversation, but for you, and I know the work that you've been doing for many, many years is resurrecting the divine male and healing the divine masculine, and your own journey as a man. And it's my own journey as a woman to have come back. And I feel for me, it's been a journey back to my heart. And I want to share in this journey. And it's really, really important. And the passions that we bring to our work. But, you know, reflecting on that big conversation around healing the divine feminine, and reflecting on that they say we've moved into a new age, which is the age of the matriarch. And we're leaving the age of the patriarch. But, you know, it's a big conversation, but I just feel like it's something that we need to touch on today. And, you know, the divine qualities of the masculine, Seamus. And I suppose just going back, really, I just kind of want to kind of back up there a little bit. And, you know, I was a teenager and you were the fire starter in my life. You were the instigator that you introduced me to Reiki at the age of 16, 17, and you paid for me to do my level 1. And I'm getting goosebumps now as I say that, but, you know, and to understand that you were that person that opened that door for me, all that sensitivity, all the stuff that I've been hiding, you know, all the things that I pushed away as a child thinking they were a curse, you know, you opened that door for me and you paid for me to do my level 1. You supported me to do my level 2 and my master's in Reiki as well. You know, so you have really, for the last 23 years, you've always stepped up to the mark, and I've always been there, you know, and to share in your own journey, but your own work around supporting men. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Seamus, and just share a little bit about your own journey.
Thank you, and it's lovely being in space with you. And Resurrecting the Male Divine, it's an interesting topic to begin. I suppose being raised in the West of Ireland, and, you know, with all the trauma and the communities we grew up in, what is a healthy and powerful man, you know? And as growing up as a young man, a lot of alcohol abuse, a lot of physical abuse in our communities. But I was very sensitive, and I had challenges just being intimate and opening up and connecting. And there's a lot of fear carried in my body. And for years, just didn't feel right, felt nervous, didn't feel worthy, and ultimately was unable to have a positive, intimate experience. So that journey led me to go to the London School of Tao when I went to London at 22. And what they were offering was sexual kung fu, practices, qigong, and really understanding the nature of the human body and the energetic side.
Yeah.
So I started, and I studied there for 4 years while I was consulting in London, and I studied up to becoming at a teacher level. And through studying those practices, I was able to heal myself, and not only heal myself, but empower myself, and really touch on the conscious sexuality, you know, understanding the energy, sharing it, moving beyond a lot of the teachings we have in Western society. And but that is my journey as a man. It was just really to empower myself.
Yeah.
How do I feel happy in my body? And how do I feel confidence moving ahead as a man, and integrating or connecting with the feminine?
Yeah.
What is a positive relationship? What is positive intimacy? And like most people I know, I've never even heard of the wheel of consent. And such an important practice.
Yeah.
So through my own, for the last 20 years, Amy, I've been on this journey of self-healing.
Yeah.
And it's been a passion of mine. I love martial arts. I did a lot of Qigong, Kung Fu. I was training with the Shaolin monks when I was in London as well. So, and you know me, you've seen me go to Central America and Australia, and everywhere I go, I always go on walkabout, as they say.
Yeah, and just gathering tools along the way. But I think as well, Seamus, it's for all of us, you know, as Ramdas, who left this physical plane, says, you know, we're all walking each other home.
Agreed.
Know? And, you know, for this, to be able to have this conversation, and, you know, it's very easy for women to sit in space and to have these conversations and
100%.
be vulnerable and talk about things. And women love to come together and natter, but for men to come together and talk about the pressures of society, or demasculination, or the shadow side of masculinity, which is the shadow, you know, we talk about healing, you know, the divine masculine, but it's what came out of that is the patriarchy. It's the shadow of the, you know, the divine masculine, which is control, which is hierarchy, which I'm the boss, I'm in charge, you know, it's control, it's divide and conquer. And, you know, what I see through my workshops, what I see through the work I do with men and women, is massive disconnections. Just, they're so disconnected from themselves and disconnected from who they are, and that confusion around, as you said, growing up in Ireland, where, you know, it wasn't talked about sex. It was a very male dominated society, and still is to a certain extent. And these things weren't talked about, and everything was brushed under the carpet. And men were told it's okay to be angry, but not sad. And women, it's okay to be sad, but not angry. So let alone is the divine feminine, healing, it's the divine masculine. It's just massive work, you know?
Yeah, well, I think you could split it like, I need to heal the divine feminine in me to say that it's safe to receive, it's safe to feel, and it's safe to be vulnerable. And through that process of empowering all sides of me, well, I am whole and thus a man, if you would, understanding and owning both sides, of both the feminine and masculine side of being a man.
Yeah, because there's feminine and masculine in all of it. Yeah.
And part of the journey I have with some of my clients is giving them permission to express and understand the feminine side of themselves.
Yeah.
Like, for example, a great example I use is that a man will tend a garden way different than a woman will. And i.e. showing us that our nurturing sides are expressed differently depending if it's coming from the masculine quality or the feminine quality. And you know, it's hard to find those hard examples in our society and with our leaders, or with our, you know, with people we look up to. It's very, very hard to see that and to know what those positive qualities you can call into one's life.
Yeah, and totally. It's like Seamus, even reflecting on that, you talking about working in the corporate world for over 20 years, working for Apple, working all over the world, really, and, you know, working in a very male-dominated society, and you use that word vulnerability, and, you know, to, in that hierarchy of systems, to even show your vulnerability, you might feel like a target. You know, how can you show that vulnerability within those structures that are, a lot of them are crumbling, you know?
They are, yeah. Well, there's a reason why I haven't gone back to the corporate environment in the last 3 years. And like yourself, Amy, you know, our teachings and practices and what we have and our passions, it's bigger than me. And as you know, I'm launching in a few weeks, and I'm putting myself out there because we are in a crisis, I feel, our communities. And, you know, I've had men's circles. I've hosted men's circles in Vancouver for nearly a year and a half. And I've been to some circles locally here on Vancouver Island. And, and what I'm really realizing is men are so alone and they don't even know how to approach the feminine, was one of the main things I picked up on. And another sad thing is pornography.
Yeah.
The a pornography addiction, how it's really closing men off more and more, and their inability to even be intimate with themselves.
Yeah.
And even to know what an intimate relationship is beyond that.
Yeah, it's a big problem in Ireland. I think it's the second biggest addiction actually in Ireland, and it's not talked about, you know. So it's so easily accessible, and then that disconnect that is happening. Yeah.
Very much so. So true understanding, and having young daughters as well. And it's really inspiring me just to just to get out there and as an agent of change as well. I've held space, but I've never really put myself out there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I take clients, and whether it's permission, whether it's emotional intelligence support, whether it's just speaking about intimacy. But a lot of the times it's helping them with their vitality, their sexual vitality, able to meet their partners or a woman in an equal setting.
Yeah.
Because that's the battle of the sexes again, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And for men to be able to heal in that space, like vulnerability is so important, and communication.
Yeah.
And to pick up more feminine qualities. It's not goal-based.
Yeah.
And intimacy and sex is not intimacy. You know, it's a part of an expression of intimacy, and it's helping men understand what intimacy is as well.
Totally.
And the more they can expand their lexicon of how they can express themselves, thus comes the healing and permission as well.
Yeah, the permission, so important, you know. And I think I was reflecting there for a while as well, being a woman and growing up in Ireland, like we mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, and you know, women being totally disempowered in Irish society. Last Magdalen Laundry closing in Ireland in 1994, which is not that long ago. Women really disempowered within society, so that internal anger and internal rage within the feminine, and then them giving birth to children, and maybe their only way of sourcing some kind of power was controlling their children. So then these young men and women growing up and feeling very mixed, getting very mixed messages around their position within the family structure, or their relationship as a man to the world, or a woman, or trying to pull away from, say, the representation of the mother, you know, to find their own independence, but feeling responsible for the mother or the father. You know, the complexities, the complexities of basically it's going back, really, it's looking at our own relationship with our father and with our mother, you know.
Agreed. You're touching on a topic of Irish mammies a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, where they can be very strong, you know, components in their son's life. You know, the wounding, the male wounding within the feminine, of course, that then is expressed within their own lives with the men and the children they have in their own lives.
Yeah, and then it's a reflection of what's been happening on the planet. That's my feeling, you know, because, you know, the planet Earth, Mother Earth is feminine. So that feeling towards the divine, your own feminine nature, or towards the feminine that raised you, and that's reflected then out into the world, and the destruction that has been happening to the planet.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And even in our modern society, you know, the ideals of what it means to be a man, of course, are shifting rapidly with the gender movement.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm still sitting with that because of, you know, understanding where I sit as a man in our society, where I'm at. And it can be it's even more challenging to navigate that, to know what words you can use.
Yeah.
Because certain words have, the meaning of them have shifted.
Oh, yes.
So I'm unable to say that I'm a man. I have to say I'm a cis man. So again, we see more complexities for men to actually understand who and what they are. Cis male, mean I was born with a penis. I.e., another person can identify as a gender as being a man.
Yeah.
And that is true, how they identify without being born with a penis. ultimately. So that's just more complexity to navigate in our modern society.
Yeah.
And it's really been reflected in the circles and the conversations I'm having as well.
Yeah, it's massive, Seamus. You know, and I was reflecting earlier on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, it's that self-actualization first
Correct.
and foremost. You know, it's like, how can I be the best version of myself, and, you know, bring that and birth that out into the world. And then around self-esteem, you know, that we have respect, you have recognition of first and foremost of yourself, and then that freedom to be that person, and
Correct.
that innate strength, you know, and then that feeling of which no man is an island. And I say this all the time, that we are here to experience and to be together, and that love and connection that we need to feel, and that sense of belonging through friendship, through community, through family, and then that sense of safety, which is the other, you know, of the needs that we need, the sense of safety that we have, housing, we have, you know, food on the table. And in Ireland, you know, personally, and I know you probably see it in Canada, you know, it's like we've got 3,000 children homeless, the first time in our history of the state since it was established in 1921. So basic needs not being met, so people then not able to meet those other parts of themselves, if that makes sense, you know?
Oh yeah, when you talk about, you know, I talk about the lexicon and owning words that you can relate to inside yourself. 10 years ago, child homelessness, that term didn't exist in Irish psyche.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as kids on the street.
Yeah.
So we can see an expression of new terms coming up, and it's more and more disempowerment and more pain.
Yeah, more pain, you know, and it's the work, I suppose, that I do, and, you know, from the discussion we had, it's trying to help people reconnect to themselves in that space, you know, and creating that safe space for them through the work that you do.
Yeah, agreed. That a lot of men, you'll find out that, you know, there was no real conversation about intimacy or, you know, the facts of life, and, you know, how they ebbed and grew within that was through pornography sometimes, and just finding their way through it, and suddenly they're finding themselves in marriages and with children, and they don't know how to turn up in their own marriage. They want to go deeper. They don't know. They're fearful. They don't even have the words to express the feelings they have in them.
Yeah.
So it's giving men the protection, the safety to really see them and hear them, and allow that space to grow inside them to see what comes up.
Yeah.
And I can help them navigate that journey of self-discovery.
Amazing.
And at the end, it's permission and validation.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I just feel as a woman myself, and I hold a lot of space for men, and I do a lot of work, you know, holding space with men, and I just feel it's so important for men to have men, you know. I can take them so far with certain issues and help them, but I feel that it's imperative, especially I worked in the community for years, and it's very top heavy with women. So it's so important for young men to have role models of other men.
Very much so, yeah. And a really good friend of mine recently, who, you know, he has a value-led life. He's a man I admire in my life, and he's gone training 16-year-olds 3 times a week, beach volleyball, and to have a man of that integrity and how he turns up in life, it just warmed my heart so much, because that's what we need. We need leaders who live by example.
Totally, Seamus. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is a big conversation, and I feel it's a conversation we're going to continue to have. And I think we'll leave it for that today, because we said we'll just run the conversation for about 20 minutes.
Very much so. Yeah, there's many topics, and, you know, I have different workshops and different approaches for men. So there's lots to talk about for sure.
Yeah, and it's exciting, you know. It's just, as you said, it's taking that leap of faith. And as I mentioned myself, that Spirit said to me, it's time to step out of the shadows and to share in your journey, to share in the tools that have helped you on your own journey to get to this point in your life. And
I've owned them, and I've practiced them, and they've been very successful for me. And, you know, I suppose just coming out, being separated out of a marriage for a few years, of course, there's a lot of self-healing after that, and self-discovery. And with that, there was a lot of healing with intimacy with myself,
Yeah.
with having a new partner.
Yeah.
And I really, really have become whole, because what I'm experiencing is what we're helping men with. 100%.
Yeah, that's great.
Fully on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me today, Seamus.
You too, Christian.
Yeah, and we'll have more conversations, brother. And I'll just stop.
Thank you, sis.
Where I sit is holy, holy is the ground. Forest, mountain, river, listen to the sound. Great Spirit circles all around me.